to connect.
Meeting is now streaming on YouTube, is what it says.
Okay.
All right, so the meeting has been called to order and we've adopted the agenda. So I guess being virtual, we really don't have any delegations or public presentation. So that takes us to 5.1, the meeting minutes of the regular council meeting held December the 8th, 2020. I'd entertain a motion that the minutes of the regular council meeting of council held December 8th, 2020 be adopted as presented. Thank you, Councillor Stickle. Any questions, errors, or omissions? All right, seeing none, I'll call a question. All in favor? And that is carried. That takes us to item, oh, here we go again, this iPad, great. That takes us to accounts payable, 6.1. I would entertain a motion that council accepts the accounts payable listing for general account checks 41368 to 41423 and direct deposit payments of 000036 to 000077 for information. Thank you, Councillor Deadlock. Any questions regarding the accounts payable? All right, seeing none, I'll call a question. All in favor? And that is carried. That takes us to 6.3, the budget overview. I would entertain a motion that council accepts the statement of revenue and expenses for, no, sorry. Statement of expenses, sorry. 6.2. I would entertain a motion that council accepts the statement of revenue expenses report for December 2020 for information. Thank you, Councillor Olson. Any questions regarding the statement of revenue and expenses?
Mr. Mayor, just a comment. That is getting us closer to year end. It's not quite actual year end. We'll have invoices still coming in. We'll have some revenue still coming in. So, but it's getting much closer to an actual picture here. So. Okay. But if you're expecting it's exact, it won't be quite ready yet. So,
okay, awesome. Thank you for that. All right, I'll call the question though. Then all in favor? And that is carried. That takes us to 6.3, the budget overview. I entertain a motion that council accepts the budget overview for December 2020 for information. Thank you, Councillor Jensen. Any questions regarding the budget overview? All right, then I'll call a question. All in favor? That is carried. That takes us finally to the capital budget overview, 6.4. I would entertain a motion that council accepts the fourth quarter capital budget update dated December 2020 for information. Thank you, Councillor Campion. Any questions regarding the capital budget overview? Seeing none, I will call a question. All in favor? And that is carried. All right, that takes us to committee reports. We did have one from the Community Services Board. I would entertain a motion. Oh, whoops, let me get back here. That the council accepts the Community Services Board meeting minutes held December 7th, 2020 for information. Thank you, Councillor Stickle. Any questions? Points of concern? All right, then I'll call a question. All in favor? And that is carried. All right, that takes us to Senior Administrative Officials Report. We're going to go to 8.1, our Chief Administrative Officer. Mr. Neal, I hope you had a good Christmas and New Year's, and I'm just going to turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess it was as good as COVID Christmas that anyone could have. So just a couple of things to update, Mr. Mayor. So we did have the tax recovery auction today. We did have 5 people, including Councillor Stickle, attend. At the end of the day, we went through the process. There was no one who made any bids on any of the properties. So that is not unexpected. Plan now would be to bring back those properties to the February council meeting for direction from council to take title to those properties and move forward from there. So I just wanted to let you know we did have some people there. It went very well. Just had no one that was prepared to bid at the minimum reserved bid. COVID-19 update, not much to add. You never know if things are going to change, but we all know the public health regulations were extended to January 21st. So that means that basically all of our town owned and operated public facilities will remain closed to the public. Town office is open, public works is open to the public as we sit. The mayor and I were on the same wavelength in terms of his message and what I've indicated in the report here. We have kept the ice plant on. So it's been on for I guess December 13th was the last day we could have any, or December 12th was the last day we could have any activity in the arena or curling rink. So the ice plant is still on. Comes a time where you have to, make a decision to cut bait. I think we'll wait and see what happens on January 21st. And if there's further extensions past January 21st, I think we'll need to have some discussions with our user groups, just to let them know. Certainly they're going to be pushing to have it in and have it remain in case things change. But we'll have to have some discussions with them to see what their thought is. And then at the end of the day, we can, bring back something to council to ultimately decide whether we're going to continue to keep the ice plant running in case relaxations are reduced, or whether we're going to just make a decision and cut it. I'm not as concerned about the hockey rink. If we took the ice out, we could put it back in probably within a week. There would be some additional costs because you've got to paint the ice again and do all of that. But I'm more concerned just from the curling rink side. If they just have one employee, it generally takes him close to 3 weeks to get the ice in, and if it was pulled out, to wait another 3 weeks to get it back in. Not saying it has to take that long, but they'd have to get some additional help or volunteers to speed up that process. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that things open up and we can have public back in those facilities, but we won't probably know much more until the 21st or close to the 21st. So just and if there's anything that we need to come back to council for in that regard, the ice plant is certainly one that stands out for me. So two things not in my report. So the Cactus Corridor Economic Development Corporation, as you know, received significant funding from Western Economic Diversification for a number of projects. So a lot of those are just starting to roll out here. And just for council's information, I have a downtown redesign urban guideline meeting next week, kickoff meeting. I have the marketing project meeting with the consultant by phone tomorrow. And they're looking at, I've got some information on the healthy living kickoff. So those projects are all kind of starting to take shape. I know with the downtown project, reviewing through the process, there will be key points that council will be brought into for discussion and updates. This meeting we're having next week is just to start off. This is the process where we're going to go. So certainly council will be very heavily involved in the projects that Hanna are Hanna based. So there's a number of them and they're kicking off next week. Some of the earlier funding that they got on the irrigation projects, and some of those have already started and been working through the system. So the last thing, just for council's info, I had originally planned to be working in the office this week, but I had subdivision development appeal board training all day yesterday. And I've got some regional asset management training on Thursday and Friday, a couple other Zoom meetings. So I'm going to continue from home this week. Certainly call me, regular line, cell phone. And I'm around. I was in the office today for the auction, but be working from home and hopefully can get my setup taken back to the office and start working out of the office next week is the plan. So just in case anybody's looking for me, I am still around. So, and I think that's it, Mr. Mayor, unless there's any questions council may have.
Thank you for that. Is there any questions for CA O'Neill? All right, seeing none. Thanks a lot, Kim, for that. Oh, Councillor Borden.
Sorry, my apologies for being late. I was just wondering, are you going to share what the results, or was there any anybody that bid on any of the properties for the auction at all, or not?
Yeah, Councillor Bode, sorry you missed that, but there was people at the auction, but there was no bids on any of the properties.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you for that, Mr. Neal. That takes us to 8.2, Director of Business and Communications. Director Armstrong, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Warwick. I just want to start by wishing everyone a happy new year. And we've all learned a lot and come a long ways, and I'm hoping the learning curve levels off for a while for us, because this whole technology piece has been a huge learning curve for all of us. Like Kim, I am available. I have been working, set up at home with the office phone. You can reach me on my landline or cell phone. Just wanted you to know that even though I'm not in the office, well, today I ran down to the office at 2, so I was gone for probably an hour or so, but yeah, and I have nothing further to add to my report.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. Well, I think I can speak on behalf of all of council that, through this whole COVID and technological changes and the things you've had to learn, I think you've done a stellar job. It's been quite seamless for us as council, so we appreciate that. Thank you for that. Is there any questions for Director Armstrong?
Just a comment. She said that we've learned a lot. We've also forgot a lot too.
That's just normal, though, Councillor.
Some of us said, yeah, well, that's true.
All right, thank you, Director Armstrong. That takes us to 8.3, Director of Community Services. Director Snell, the floor is yours.
You're muted.
You are muted, Gwen.
I said some really great things. Thank you, Mayor Warwick. Sorry about that. I should have hit the space bar as Kyle had suggested previously. Just a couple of updates for my report, and I wasn't sure whether I should interject with our CAO. Kim had asked that I actually contact the user groups and have some communication with the user groups of the arena. And in fact, I have had a conversation today with the president of the curling club. We've both agreed that we are watching how things sort of unwind, but we are going to see if we can have a little bit of a Zoom meeting just with the main users of the facility, just to chat about some what ifs, what's coming up. What if, we've got another 2 weeks or another 4 weeks, what that would look like, and start that conversation with the groups. And I think CAO Neil's point was to start that discussion with the group so that they could have some input. So I did have a good chat with the president today, and we'll continue on with minor hockey and figure skating and some of our other user groups as well, so that I can bring that information back so that both the CAO and council can make some good decisions based on that. We had an inquiry in regards to utilizing our community center in conjunction with Heartland for the shutdown, and I have been in discussions with public health, and so we are restricted from renting our facility under the guidelines, but can apply for an exemption. And so I've been working on that just so council's aware of that and what's transpiring with that. I'm waiting for official notification back from public health, and it hasn't been easy because I contact our local public health officer, and then because it's unique and different, he asked me to contact BizConnect, who then refers me back to the local public health. So we're doing a little bit of a shuffle with a unique situation, but if we can work with our local companies, definitely we will, and for the benefit of the community. Speaking of,
Gwen, can you just maybe fill council in a little bit on what Heartland wants to use the community center
absolutely,
for?
okay, I wasn't sure how much detail, but absolutely. I was approached by Heartland and they would like to set up the community center as a bit of a staging center where they would utilize our commercial kitchen to provide meals, bag lunches for the workers that are coming for shutdown. And they're looking at renting the community center for a total of a month. They would bring in their own caretaker to disinfect and clean during that shutdown period. So they're looking from February 7th until the 16th of March. So as our CAO reminded me, we are restricted from renting that facility. It is required that we have to get an exemption for it. But given that it is definitely an essential service, if they don't do the required maintenance and upgrade on the plant, we won't have power. So I kind of like my power and as everyone else does, I'm sure. So we're looking at working with them on that. The conversation that I had with the representative said they really wanted to make sure they're bringing people from all over the province. And that presents a risk to our community in terms of COVID. And they want to make sure that they keep our community and our residents safe. And therefore they want to ensure that people have got their testing and all the paperwork's in place before they put them up in the hotels and get them working, coming and going from the facility. So I think it's very forward thinking on the part of the plant, and I'm pleased with that, and I'm pleased to be working with them. So hopefully we can get that authorization quickly. I did state in my correspondence that although they weren't requesting to use the facility until the 7th of February, we wanted to know so that they could start their planning and preparations immediately. So definitely looking forward to that. Do you have a question, Councillor Campion?
Yes, I do, Gwen. What would be, would they bring their own cook and everything? Like, is that the deal or what? Because it's not very fair to our local caterers.
No, they are planning on using local caterers. There was concern about, they know that, I mean, these are local people that are often employed in the plant as well. And the comment was that they want to continue to have a good positive impact on the economy. But they also want to keep the community safe. So they want to hire local caterers to help with that. And they said they'd be utilizing the local grocery stores to provide the product to feed people. So said the restaurant use will be down, but they can't dine in at this point. So they're just trying to make sure they prepare and still have that positive impact. So good question.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Borden has a question.
Yes.
I was just wondering if they mentioned, had any mention of the number of people that would be coming to Heartland for the shutdown?
I did not get an exact number, but they definitely want the community center so that they can space people out.
Yeah.
They don't want to have that congestion, and they want to have a bit of an order in terms of how people come in and do the work.
That makes sense. I was just concerned about the numbers.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, you're quite welcome. So I think it's very positive, and I did give them our rate for our community center, and they came back with a little bit of a counter offer, but it's still substantial. And at this time when our revenues are down for the community center, it's certainly going to be a nice bonus back into the community as well. I too have been contacted by Cactus Corridor, had a couple of meetings with both Mark and Tammy, sat in of a couple of the projects that impact our department directly. And I will be starting the meetings later this week or early this next week as well. One of them is trails, which dovetails quite nicely with our Hanna Wellness Network and what's happening there. And with the push for outside use, we've been really scrambling to try and provide I guess, easy access for people, fun, and I'm really pleased with what's been happening within the community. For example, out at Fox Lake Park, on the ice, Tyrell Bond got out there with his little unit and cleared a little bit of snow. And next thing you know, we've got a really nice little skating area out there. And a couple of the fire department, thank you, Fire Chief Mole, gave permission for a couple of his volunteer firefighters to come out and help flood the ice last Friday, and gave it a little bit of a sheen, and it's quite nice. I was out there on Sunday, and people are definitely using it. We'll take a couple of picnic tables out. So what we're trying to do is promote people to get outdoors, be active. We're telling them they can go ahead and use the fire pits in the campground if they want to bring their own wood and do a little bit of a outdoor fire, and as a family be out and enjoy the outdoors. So we're definitely trying to do that and promote it. And I have been in discussions with Jay Slamp, for example. He's got a cross-country ski trail along CN Dam on the east side by the Doll Palace and around up to Fox Lake. So basically on the edge, and we've actually got a volunteer that's willing to groom that trail if we do get more snow. So we're really trying hard to make sure that people have an opportunity to be outdoors and be active and do some family time. And I'm sure you noticed the picture of Hector King Hunter Park. Lots of good compliments already about that. When we took our lights down and repurposed them, people are pleased. We have been keeping the walkway clean in that park, and people have been using it. So that's a first for us. Generally, we don't keep that walkway clean, but we did this year. So you'll see some promotions. I know Anne's been working with Lori on a promotional calendar for February, where we're going to encourage people and challenge them to do different family items, get out and be active. And we'll tie a little bit of a reward or prize money to that, weekly draws. So all positive messaging coming out. So, and then the other thing coming up is the Hanna Family and Marriage Therapy is working to get an additional service available through rapid access counseling. So that would be an online. So we've been working hard in the department to try and provide supports to keep people positive. So any questions from any of the council members in regards to the department, or?
Okay, I'd had just one thought. I don't know about in any of your conversations with minor hockey. Of course, they'll have lost at least a month minimum. Do you think there might be an ask from them possibly to leave the ice in longer if they do get going again, perhaps till the end of April, if that's even an option? I know probably in light of what COVID's doing, I wouldn't think we would have a rummage sale at the end of there. I don't know. It's something that we may have to consider as council or as operationally. I'm not sure. I don't know if you've had that conversation or if that's indicated at all.
I haven't had that conversation, but I'm actually expecting that. That crossed my mind as well, Mayor Warwick, and which is why it's good to have that conversation this week with the groups to see how they feel. My comment to CA O'Neill was that strictly from a financial side, I felt when the province closed things down, we probably should be shutting down our plant and saving money. But from a community, community hopefulness and looking forward, it would just be devastating to the community. So it made sense to keep the plant running.
Yeah, that's fine. That's good. Councillor Campion.
Yeah, with the plant thing too, it hardly makes it worthwhile if we're going to shut the curling rink down. This is their prime time for bonspiels. It was going to take 3 weeks to put it back in. She'll be hopefully spring or
No,
pretty
but
close.
what we're saying is if something happens, say at the end of this month, that everything opens up again and you can start playing hockey and curl again, there might be an opportunity to leave it open for an extra month. That's what we're saying. Not taking it out and then putting it back in again.
But what I'm saying, Kim Neal said was that he planned on maybe shutting it down for a while.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I think by our next regular council meeting, if it's not opened up again, I think it's time to make a decision as to whether we just shut it down or not. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Okay.
Just to be clear, Councillor Campion, there's no decision to shut off the ice plant, and if there is a decision to be made, whether it stays on or is turned off, will be a decision that will be made by council.
Yeah, right on, okay.
Councillor Deadlock?
So have we heard any more or anything with getting more funding from the government, how they subsidized last year for COVID costs and stuff? Could those costs go towards keeping the rink open later?
Councillor Deadlock, yeah, we haven't, there has been no discussion anywhere that I'm aware of about more COVID support from either the federal government or the provincial government. I think both of them are getting tapped out, and I don't know how much more they're willing to move forward. I also think they're optimistic with the shutdowns that have been in place and the vaccine rollout that we are going to get to closer to our normal sooner than later. But there has been no discussion to date about any additional funding.
So if we had more, if we had funds in that little bag of money, that maybe we could allocate it towards extending some of that stuff?
Yeah, Councillor Deadlock, I'm not worried necessarily right now about the cost. But certainly when we come back to council, if the restrictions are going to be extended for, you know, a longer period of time or a significantly longer period of time, we'll need to have that discussion with council. But, you know, at this point in time, the other bad thing, it's good that the weather's been nice, but again, that means the ice plant has to run more because the weather's been nice. But it is what it is. I think 2020, we're going to come out with having a relatively decent year, even with COVID financially. And I think even with 21, with the loss of revenue to date in the arena, it's not going to be significant, and I think we'll be okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Director Snell, for that report. We appreciate it very much. That takes us to Director of Protective Services. Director Moe, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Adrian, we can't hear you.
Yeah, we can't hear you. You're unmuted, but. Nope. Nope. It's interesting. Nope.
It must be the mic itself, maybe, because you were unmuted.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll leave it. We'll go to Director of Public Works, which probably, you know, if I'm going historically, probably won't be very long, but I don't know, unless I don't know. It's a computer and it's supposed to do things like that. So I guess that's where we're left. So we'll try it again maybe when we do Director Olesen. So Director Olesen, welcome. I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
Can't hear you either.
I am not. I was just seeing if you guys caught that.
That's mean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Warwick. And I have nothing further to add to my report.
Right. That's
Right.
new.
Unless there's some questions.
Okay. Let's just see if anybody has any questions. Council? No, not at this point. So, Director Moe, you want to give it another shot? I don't think it's going to work, but no. Yeah. I don't know. Technology, I guess it's just not your time this month, I guess. So we'll, if anybody has any questions, we could probably direct something to Mr. Neal, and I'll open that up. He might be able to answer it. Does anybody have any questions regarding the written report that we have from Director Moe? Nope. Okay. Thank you for that report, Director Moe. That was awesome. All right. With that, that ends our Senior Administrative Officials Report. I would entertain a motion that council accepts the Senior Administrative Officials Report 8.01 to 8.05 as presented for information. Thank you, Councillor Borden. All in favor? And that is carried. All right, that takes us to some business items here. It says right out of the gate, it looks like we have our quarterly and year-end report from our illustrious leader of our fire department, Fire Chief Mole. I'm going to turn the floor over to you. Welcome. I hope you had a good Christmas and a great new year as well.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I did. And Happy New Year to everybody that's on the call. We're going to see if technology will work here. I'm going to try sharing a screen so you can see my PowerPoint. Lori, I need you to turn that on, please.
My apologies. I thought I had turned it on earlier.
That's okay. It appears to be working now. Can you guys see that slide?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So we'll get right into it here. Membership is currently sitting at 24 firefighters, which is down from where we usually are. We try to stay around 30 firefighters, but we didn't do any recruitment during COVID over 2020. And at the end of 2020, we've had 2 long-term members retire. Director Mole retired at 20 years of service, and Marie Orr retired at 30 years of service. So with those 2 gone, we're at 24. We're sitting with a few applications, but we'll be working on them once COVID allows us to. I did give you a quick snapshot here of where our members fall for how many years they've been on the department. We're sitting pretty good, lots of experience over that 10 years of service. So quite happy with where we're at. Just need to get back on the recruitment and get our numbers up. Our emergency training partnership is still going. Originally formed in 2005 from the Fire Commissioner's Office Regional Training Initiative. As most of you are aware, the grants are gone now. We just finished our grant report for the second last grant. We have 1 more year, got a little bit of grant money left to spend on one of the courses this year, and then that's the end of the provincial training grant. For 2020, we are doing things different. As I talked to you guys before, we're doing complete Nfpa courses over a year instead of series over multiple years. So this will allow us to higher level training. It will cost us a little more, but it's working out quite well. This past year, we did 1 complete course, which was for firefighters that had most of the courses before, but just needed the live fire training finish. So we did a quick class of 16, of which 7 students were from Hanna. Everybody passed, so it brought our level of firefighter 1 candidates up considerably. Prior to that, we only had, I believe, 5 of us that had that level of training. This fall, we started a new NFPA 1001 Firefighter 1 course due to be completed in May, unless, of course, delayed by COVID. We had 24 students, of which 8 are from Hanna. We started in October. The second session was supposed to be in January. We've pushed it to February. We may be pushing it to March, depending on where we're at with the COVID restrictions. We didn't have a lot planned through the middle of winter just because of the cold weather and how much of our stuff we can't do. So delaying it once or twice hasn't been a big deal, but if we don't get going on it in March, it will start to back things up. And just a picture of some of that training going on. Our burn tower update, phase 1's completed. Phase 2's pretty much completed, just a few minor paint touch-ups to be looked after this spring when the weather warms up. Just again, they were delayed with COVID, got out here, did some of the changing on our staircase for us, but never got around to doing the paint deficiencies, just ran out of time. You can see in this picture here, which by the way is the very top roof of the tower looking to the north. If you look off to your left, you'll see the primer and stuff on the railing, little things like that that you just need to finish doing some touch-ups. Phase 3 is our installation of exterior burn props. Looking at a $460,000 phase for that. That's going to be funded primarily through half CFEP and then the matching money to CFEP, which we have in place. That's the money that we got from the municipalities and through our fundraising, things like Gord Bamford and Hannapalooza back a few years ago. That's where money's come from. So we need to apply for this project in June of this year. So that would be a 2022 project, early 2022 if things go right. And this is what that project would be. One of them's a car prop, and the other one's what's called a quad prop, that you can change these props to be different things. You can buy a variety of props to go on there. 2020 or year in review. This shows your 5-year incident comparison. So we had 95 incidents this past year. One down from year before, but down overall from our last 3-year average, but still above the 10-year average. You know, we used to have a lot of 67s, 83s kind of years. So we're still above where we would have been a decade ago. The breakdown between town and rural, we had 42 in-town incidents, 53 rural incidents this past year. If you look at that over a 5-year comparison, nothing too astounding there. Town calls up a little bit, but in the ratio wise, but for the most part, pretty steady. This breaks it down between town, Alberta Transportation, special areas, and mutual aid. Alberta Transportation covers anything on a numbered highway. So it can be a primary or secondary numbered highway from fence line to fence line. So if there's a fire in the ditch, that can be a transportation call. If it goes into the field, then it becomes a special areas call. Sometimes it's split between both. If it starts in ditch, ends up in the field, we have to bill according to how much time we spent on each side of the fence. 5-year comparison on this, no real surprises. I mean, our special areas calls were down, mostly because you'll see later on our grass fires were down. That's pretty much the biggest contribution there. Breaking it down by types of calls, our false alarms were at 23, up from last year, but down from the 2 previous years. So I'd say more of our 5-year average. Grass fire is way down. We down year, which down from the year before. But if you note in 2016, we'd had 5. I mean, this is pretty much the moisture barrier. You know, how much rain did we get? How much snowfall do we get? You know, how much of a drought do we have? That varies with that, as most of you are aware, right? Medical assists are up considerably, which is kind of funny because during COVID, there was a number of months that we didn't run any medical assist calls, that the province didn't want us running medical assist, and they weren't dispatching fire departments throughout the whole province out for any medical assists. So this stat, it would have been interesting to see where it had been at if we'd ran the complete year on medical assists. The current ambulance crews we have, a lot of them come in here from the city, working shifts here, working shifts everywhere. They're used to a lot of areas where fires go into everything. And now that they figured out, oh, we don't go to those calls unless they request us, we're seeing them request us a lot. Also, there's been a few dispatch errors you've seen in the media lately about dispatching by SCC. A lot of the fire department dispatches losing to SCC are going to be dispatching ambulance. Our ambulance has always been dispatched for years by SCC, and because of that, there's been some errors. We get dispatched to calls where the ambulance crew has not requested us, but one of those things that happen. Our 5-year miscellaneous comparison, pretty average, if anything, a little low. This is our catch-all, garbage can fires, strange calls that don't fit in any of our other criteria. MVAs at 23 this year, down a little, probably still lower than our average. You know, if you went back 10 years ago, this would be pretty average, but lately we've been pushing those 30s, high 20s. Structure fires, we actually had 5 this year, which was up. Again, all over the place, but that 2017 number was high, but 2017 seemed to be that high year where we just had lots of everything going on. The area was so busy. So 5's up a little, but nothing too alarming that I'm worried about. Vehicle fires, this includes like balers, combines, hay binds, anything that's can be moved, that's got wheels, falls into this vehicle fire category. Bit of a pie chart breaking down a percentage of what we do. The incident types when looked at percentage of calls. So as you can see, false alarms make up just about a quarter of what we do. Same with MVAs, medical assists not far behind. Nothing too alarming there. False alarms, medical assist being higher, as I noted before. Incident volume by time of day, no real surprises here. The bulk of what we do is during daylight hours, right? The warmer it is, more people moving around, more things happening. And day of week, this one's an interesting one every year. It seems like it varies. There's no real trend here where we can always say it's always busier on the weekend or always quieter on a Tuesday. It seems just to move around week to week. And with that, that is the end of mine. Is there anything that, any questions any of you may have?
Yes, Councillor Olson.
I guess not a question, just a comment. I had a conversation with, I think his title is Deputy Fire Chief for Special Areas, Palmer. And I just wanted to recognize that he pointed out, calls were down, things are lower. He said every call is substantially more effort, more cost. He said the extra PPE everybody's gone through, the extra work before the call, after the call. He said medical assists are quite draining on these guys trying to go out for everything they have to do to prepare for every situation now with COVID protocols in place. So it's nice to hear the extra effort they're putting in. And I mean, it's another trickle down effect of all this COVID going on that just trickles down, hits the front line. It's just more effort that is not documented.
Yeah, we're seeing it. I mean, it's increasing our time after calls. We had a medical assist week before going into Christmas, I guess it was, right after the big snowfall that same week. And, the cleanup afterwards, the members, the amount of stuff we're throwing away, face shields wise, they're washing their gear. Even if they didn't think anything got on their gear, they're stripping it down, washing it. We're wiping down trucks still, going through lots of wipes, lots of face masks. They're being careful. The medical assist calls, and it seems like we've had a little spike of them lately. We were out last week, a bunch of members doing CPR again. We're getting exposed to stuff. So far, we've been lucky. Nothing's got past the PPE. Everything's been good. We haven't worked on a confirmed COVID case at all, unless there's one I'm not thinking of off the top of my head. Brent, you can jump in if you can think of one, but we've had some, rumored that maybe they had COVID at one time, or some of our neighboring departments have rolled in on some calls where it's found out afterwards that there was possibility of COVID or suspected COVID. 911's trying to do what they call a screen door approach, where they're asking questions before entering, trying to get us those questions before we get on scene, but it's tough. The one that's going to catch us is going to be not a medical assist call where we know it could be dangerous. The one that's going to catch us is a structure fire or an MVA or something where we're not thinking COVID, we're not thinking medical assist, and we're going to happen to deal with somebody that's got it. I know a neighboring fire department dealt with a person in distress on the side of the road. And then after getting there and starting to deal with them, found out, the reason they're in distress is they were taking them to the hospital because they think they have COVID. And it turned out they did. So those are the ones that are going to get us unexpectedly, but it's part of the risk of the job. We are hoping that the firefighters get added to the list of, like EMS with first responders, to be opened up to get vaccine in the first round here. Some letters went out, or news releases should have been going out either late today or early tomorrow from the Alberta Fire Chiefs Association requesting that all firefighters be put onto that list. There's been talk about just the guys that do MFR and medical first responders, but trying to differentiate which guys qualify for that and which guys don't. So we're trying to get a blanket right now for all firefighters, full-time, part-time, volunteer, no matter what, that if you're a firefighter in the province of Alberta, that you can get the vaccine. So you'll see a bit of a push on that in the next week or so. Any other questions? Thank you for your time.
You must be that thorough, Fire Chief Moll.
Something like that.
I'd say so. Awesome. Well done. Pass that on to council. We appreciate all the great work you guys do as volunteer fire department, and keep up the great work. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, with that, I would entertain a motion that council accepts the Hanna Fire Department quarterly report for October to December 2020, as well as the 2020 annual report for information, and thank Fire Chief David Mole for his presentation this evening. Thank you, Councillor Deadlock. All in favor? And that is carried, of course. That takes us to Hector King Hunter Park Association termination lease agreement. I will pick that up right now. All right. Oh, yeah, this was the one I read. Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Okay, you ready? I would entertain a motion that council accept the notice from Hector King Hunter Pioneer Park Association to terminate the lease agreement between the town and the association for operation and use of lands commonly known as Hector King Hunter Pioneer Park, located at 502A and 502B 5th Street West, and legally described as a westerly 300 feet in perpendicular width throughout lots 1 and 2, block 2, plan 2261 JK, and further that 1, direct administration to remove the caveat which acknowledges the lease agreement from the title. 2, direct administration to deposit the funds received from the association in the amount of $15,195.40 and set up a reserve fund for future involvements in the park or improvements in the park. And 3, direct administration to establish a physical acknowledgement of contributors to the park made by Jack Machel and Ralph Cheney. 4, acknowledge the designation of the park as the Hector King Hunter Pioneer Park will be retained. But wait, folks, there's more. That council acknowledge with regret the dissolution of Hector King Hunter Pioneer Park Association and express their gratitude to the members past and present for their dedication, initiative, and stewardship of the park, which is a significant contribution to the quality of life in our community. 2 motions. The last part. Okay, so that last part, and wait, there's more, folks. That's a second motion. So we'll take, thank you, Councillor Campen. We have a motion on the first motion, which would be ending with number 4, acknowledgement of the designation of a park as Hector King Hunter Park, which will be retained. All right.
I didn't really make the motion. I
Oh,
was gonna ask you to repeat that.
yeah, thanks a lot. I repeated part of it for you, so yeah, you had your computer on mute, Councillor Campion. Yeah, that a boy.
Yeah.
Too good. You can read. All right, Mr. Neal, you want to speak to this a little bit?
I don't know if there's much, Mr. Mayor. It's actually, the town has been managing and operating the park since 2018. It's just they've finally come to us and said, hey, let's finalize this, let's get it done. So we're going to move forward as is. All the assets that they contributed over the year will become town assets. And of course, the money they had left will be certainly a huge benefit if we need to do something significant in the park that we can draw on that reserve. So it's sad in one way to see the volunteers not being able to maintain it and keep it up. But I am really pleased with how the town has maintained it the last 3 years. We have had an individual on staff who treats it like her own backyard and has done a very good job. So I think that's it, Mr. Mayor, unless there's any questions.
It doesn't appear so. Councillor Borden? Sorry,
I was just wondering if there is then, as far as the acknowledgement, would that be in the form of a sign, a plaque, and where would it be placed if that is the case, or do we know yet?
We don't know yet, Councillor Bowden. Probably will take the form of a plaque of some sort, whether that's able to be mounted. A couple of options just initially are on the building itself, and or I know there is some acknowledgement outside on the stone tablet if you've been there. So we haven't really finalized that, but definitely we're looking at something in the form of a plaque.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions? All right, with that, I will call a question. All in favor? And that is carried. So that takes to the second part of the motion, which would be a new motion that council acknowledge with regard to the dissolution of Henry Hector King Hunter Pioneer Park Association, express their gratitude to the members past and present for their dedication, initiative, and stewardship of the park, which is a significant contribution to the quality of life in our community. Thank you, Councillor Olson. I don't think we need any discussion on this, so I'll call the question. All in favor? And that is carried. All right, that takes us to, oh yes, of course. We have a whole bunch of things here. All right, that takes us to 9.03 Community Services Board 2020 grant allocation. I would entertain a motion that council approves the recommendation of the Community Services Board to award the 2020 Community Services Board grant in the amount of $3,000 as follows. The Hanna Seals Swim Club, $1,000 for the purchase of equipment. The Hanna Municipal Library, $1,000 for the expansion of programs, and the Hanna and District Historical Society Museum, $1,000 for special programs. Thank you, Councillor Borden. Any questions or comments regarding this? I know our Community Services Board did some great work on this, so if there's any comments. Seeing none, great work. You can pass that on from council to the Community Service Board. We appreciate the work they do so that we don't have to. All right, I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. All right, that takes us to 9.03 Policy 2021. Oh, the services van, right? Is that where we're at? Yes, it is. I would entertain a motion that council approve policy 2021-01 Community Services Board handy van for the purpose of providing policies and procedures regarding use of the community services handy van, replacing policy 2013-02, effective January 1st, 2021. Thank you, Councillor Campion. Mr. Neal, you want to?
Just very briefly, the
Cleaning up.
policy had a little bit of some confusion in it, needed some clarification. So the Community Services Board reviewed the policy, made a couple of changes, primarily modifications with the definition of what disability is, and just some tweaks to the procedures for use. So it was kind of quiet there for a while. It wasn't being used. It wasn't going out. People weren't going to doctor's appointments, and then kind of probably late summer it started to pick up again, and so hopefully people are being able to use it and get to some medical appointments in places where the van comes in appropriate for them.
Great.
So if there's any questions, either I'm not sure which councillor was sitting on the board at the time, or Director Snell could address.
Councillor Bowden?
Now with COVID and all the sanitation and that sort of requirements, who will be doing the sanitation? Is it up to the person after they've used it, or is it going to be done by a town staff to ensure that it's done to certain standards?
Probably. Mayor Warwick, I can address that.
Yeah.
We do clean the van after each and every use. It comes back and is checked over. And with COVID, we are doing a higher disinfection of the vehicle.
Okay, thank you. That was just a question I had. Thank you.
Any further questions regarding the motion? All right, seeing none, I'll call a question. All in favor? And that is carried. That takes us to item 9.5, Visitor Information Center Operating Agreement in Principle. I would entertain a motion that council approve in principle the Visitor Information Center Management Proposal from the Hanna Learning Center, the Hanna Business Hub, to operate the Town of Hanna Visitor Information Center as a pilot project for 2021 season, and direct administration to develop an operating agreement based on the parameters in the proposal to be brought back to council for approval. Thank you, Councillor Jensen.
So,
Mr. Neal,
Mr. Mayor, this one kind of just moved very quickly.
Yes, it did.
So we had Lori and I had a discussion about approaching them to see if there's any interest there. Primarily, you know, as we indicated, it seems like a good fit for what they're trying to create in the hub in terms of economic development, tourism, welcome to Hanna. So it seemed like a good fit. And of course, we know tourism is an offshoot generally of economic development. We were looking at it from a selfish reason as well. If we could reduce our operating costs and the town's contribution to the operations, that would be a benefit. And again, it would reduce some staff time that you know, we could really really afford to loosen up some time there to get some things done. So Lori and I had a initial meeting. Well, Lori may have had an initial meeting with them, but we did have a meeting with the business hub and with DeRay.
Yeah.
And they asked some questions. We kind of explained what we've done, the process. We shared our financials with them, and they came back with the proposal that's here before you. I was quite pleased with their proposal. I thought that they might be looking for some additional dollars, but they feel comfortable and are willing to. They acknowledge they may see a slight loss in terms of revenue, or it might be a slight cost to them, but they do see the value of it being part of their organization. So there's a few little details we need to work out and work on, and we'd like to bring an agreement back to council, but we want to make sure you are on board with the principle of the proposal. If council wasn't on board, you know, there's no use for either one of us to do any more work on it. They appear to be, I was in discussions with Tammy McMillan this morning. They seem to be quite excited about the opportunity. She even indicated she could see herself spending a great deal of her time out there based and operating out of the Visitor Information Center rather than the business hub. So we think it's a win-win, Mr. Mayor, and we'd be prepared to answer any questions council may have.
Okay, I'll open up the floor then. Councilor Campion.
Maybe we should put a stipulation in there, and Dakota has to make the hot dog, the ice cream cones. So, I think he'd look good doing that. Oh, it sounds like a good deal. So what do we do then in the future? We keep buying the ice cream, they just serve it and do the thing, or what? They buy it.
They'll be responsible for all of the staff, all of their travel training, all of the supplies that will be required to operate the Visitor Information Center. So we will still have a cost to the town to basically manage, maintain the building, you know, the utilities, maintenance, insurance, repairs, those types of things, but they will be responsible for purchasing the ice cream, the supplies for the ice cream, all of that stuff.
Councilor Borden?
Pardon me?
Well, I was just wondering if there would be no plans on changing the structure at all. It would just be internally operating. Perfect.
Yeah, it's operating.
Go ahead.
And that's part of the agreement that would come back, Mr. Mayor, that there would be no physical adjustments to the building without approval of the town, those types of things.
And the existing leasees would still be, like I believe Stage Hanna still has the space upstairs, and that would not change at all. And
correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions? All right, that's good for that then. I'll call the question, I guess. All in favor? And that is carried. Awesome. Thank you for that. And that takes us to finally 9.6, 2021 municipal election nomination information. I'd entertain a motion the council accepts for information the 2021 municipal election nomination report as presented. Thank you, Councillor Stickle. That is a lengthy, very lengthy document. Very well done. Yeah, I think that's it might deter people from running if you give them. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, well done. I think it certainly covered everything that any of the questions that I had going into reading it. Is there any questions regarding any of that. I guess for any of those folks listening or watching on YouTube, just know that you can pick up an information package if you're interested in putting your name forward for the election this fall 2021. The rules have changed so that you can actually put your nomination in as early as January 1st, 2021, which is open now. So if anybody's interested, you can certainly do that just for those folks who are listening. All right, with that, I would entertain them, or I would call a question. I guess all in favor? And that is carried. Very well done, folks. That takes us to bylaws. We do have a couple of bylaw amendments, which I got to get to my, the easier way to get to my pages here. Bylaw Chief Administrative Officer bylaw. I would entertain a motion that council give first reading to bylaw 1013-2021, the Chief Administrative Officer bylaw. Thank you, Councillor Campion. All in favor? That is carried. I would entertain a motion the council give second reading to bylaw 1013-2021, the Chief Administrative Officer bylaw. Thank you, Councillor Dodlock. All in favor? All right, and since we would like to give it third and final reading at this meeting, we need unanimous consent. So I'll entertain a motion that council provide unanimous consent for third reading of bylaw 1013-2021, the Chief Administrative Officer bylaw at this meeting. Thank you, Councillor Stickle. All in favor? Opposed, if any? No, that is carried. All right, and I would entertain a motion that council give third and final reading to bylaw 1013-2021, the Chief Administrative Officer bylaw. Thank you, Councillor Campion. All in favor? That is carried. Now, Mr. Neal, would you like to speak to this?
I'm going to speak to it, but you guys have already approved it, Mr. Mayor. So
Oh, I guess, sorry, I missed it, but that's okay.
So, it basically is, as the reason for it was part of our MAP Municipal Accountability Program and consolidation of bylaws. We had to have a designated officer who did that. So we did some review. Looked like many municipalities had incorporated that power in their Chief Administrative Officer bylaw. So we looked at a number of different bylaws across Alberta, Chief Administrative Officer bylaws, and we stole one and used it. It is very detailed, certainly much more detailed than the last one, but and there's some big delegations of power in it, and there's some significant dollars in it, but I'm hoping that council realizes that wherever there's significant dollars mentioned in the bylaw, it refers to those dollars being in approved budgets from council. So certainly probably more detailed than we need. And I think that this bylaw, since it's passed, I think it will serve the community and serve this bylaw for many years. So the previous one, as you know, was done in 2000, so it was 20 years old. So. Yeah. So if there's any questions, I'd be prepared to answer them.
And I'll apologize to council ahead of time. I wasn't certainly trying to ram it through. I just kind of got on a roll there. So, that many motions in a row. So it is something that is certainly not malicious. I was just, just on a roll. Is there any questions regarding?
I thought you and him was splitting 150.
Yeah, I know. No, I haven't put my nomination papers in. You know where I stand with that, Brass.
Yeah, right on, buddy.
All right, if there's no questions, then that's good. Thank you. Sorry for that. It was, again, just an oversight on my part. All right, that takes us to bylaw 1014-2021, the Municipal Public Utilities Amendment bylaw. I'd entertain a motion the council give first reading to bylaw 1014-2021, the Municipal Public Utilities Amendment bylaw. Thank you, Councillor Dudlock. All in favor? That is carried. I would entertain a motion that council give second reading to bylaw 1014-2021, the Municipal Public Utilities Amendment bylaw. Thank you, Councillor Stickle. All in favor? That is carried. And again, we need unanimous consent. So I would entertain a motion that council provide unanimous consent for third reading of bylaw 1014-2021, the municipal public utilities amendment bylaw at this meeting. Thank you, Councillor Deadlock. All in favor?
Is there a discussion or no?
Yeah, well, there will be, yeah.
Okay.
That is carried. And I would entertain a motion that council give third and final reading to bylaw 1014-2021, the municipal public utilities amendment bylaw. Thank you, Councillor Campion. All right.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only change to the bylaw and the amendment to Schedule A was the increase in the water consumption per cubic meter from $2.83 to $2.89 per cubic meter, which reflects the increase charged to the town from Henry Kruger Regional Water Services Commission.
Right.
None of the other charges or fees are changed.
Right. Okay. Any questions? All right. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, that takes us to council roundtable. Let's start with, on my screen, mine's probably different than yours, but we'll start with Councillor Deadlock, followed by Councillor Stickle.
It's been really quiet for me. I have nothing else.
That's not a bad thing to be quiet, I guess, is it? Any questions for Councillor Deadlock? Okay, thank you for that. That takes us to Councillor Stickle, followed by Councillor Olson. Councillor Stickle, the floor is yours.
You're still muted, Councillor Stickle.
Oh, sorry, yeah. There you
go.
Palliser. Ashley Foster quit on January the 4th. She's a junior planner that was hired 8 months ago. She quit, so the staff at Palliser is very happy. She was a COVID junkie. It didn't matter what anybody did in the office, she wrote them up. So we had HR come down and talk to her, and she resigned the next day. So she quit on the 4th. And I believe that's good news for Palliser. So we will probably be looking for a senior planner, maybe sometime in the fall. But as of right now, things are running fairly smooth. Cadia, things are good there too. We have a couple or two couples moving in the end of the month, and I just talked to Dina today, and she said she's had 4 inquiries for people wanting to move into the lodge. So this COVID thing has really scared people off. They had to isolate and all the rest of it. But other than that, things are good. Oh, we had a guy come in on Friday and went a little ballistic about the COVID and not being able to visit his mother. So yeah, things got a little tense for a while. So we had to write him up for 90 days. He can't come. And he come the next day and apologized profusely. So we knocked it back to 60 days. And so after 60 days, he'll be allowed back in. This COVID's got people going crazy.
Yep.
That's about it for me.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Councillor Stickle? Yes, Councillor Olson.
So I know Larry loves talking about COVID stuff. Has any vaccinations gone through the lodge? Is that?
No, we haven't heard anything.
Yep.
Okay, Councillor Borden, you had a question?
Well, I was just wondering, I assume since there's people moving in that there's no cases.
There's no which?
Cases, COVID cases?
No, we have no cases here.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Councillor Stickle. That takes us to Councillor Olson, followed by Councillor Campion. Councillor Olson, will turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Warwick. No formal meetings since the last council meeting. We've had some excitement and some inquiries on the golf course on a sign that was put up about no skiing, sledding, walking on the golf course. In past years, it's not been encouraged, I'd say, to go out and, sled and ski on the course. It's happened, and most people are respectful. Some aren't. We've tried in the past before I was on the board where they put signs up and tried to keep people, and they groomed a trail. The signs lasted 2 days and they were kicked over, pushed over, damaged, and then people go wherever they want. So the concerns are when there's snow on the greens or tee boxes, it's fine. But when you get ice buildup, that's when grass is killed and there's damage to deal with the next year, which takes a long time to recover from. So just with the way things are, people are looking to get outside, and we had a large increase of people using it. And it's the same as always, 90% of people stay off where they shouldn't be. 10% likely don't intend to cause damage. They're just not aware. And there's a lot of traffic across the greens, and when you cross country ski, you want that ice buildup, what I understand. So that's, you see one path, you stick to it. And so we tried to talk to a few people and it just got worse. So the superintendent there spray painted a sign and tried to make it clear. So we went from not encouraging it, but allowing it, to now we have to prohibit it. It could be fixed possibly for next year if we get prepared for it. This year we were not prepared. I mean, it would take a lot more stuff to close off the season too, whether it's snow fence to make sure nobody can get off the path without a lot of effort, and just prepare for that better. So there was a few people that were pretty unimpressed on how it was done, but we had to get a quick message out there. It's not a 4-season facility, unfortunately. So I've had conversations with Gwen because it does fit well trying to get people out. And yeah, there's alternatives out there that we would certainly like to see pursued before the golf course is heavily trafficked in that method. The other thing I wanted to bring up, I guess I should have asked you, Mr. Neal, during the auction stuff. I had a few people talk to me why the addresses aren't posted for those auctions, or roll numbers at least. Just, is there a legal reason just for people to easily see what properties are up for that auction?
Yeah, Councillor Olson, it's primarily just legal reasons, and I guess protecting as much as we can people's privacy and identities. So it's generally not a good situation if you're an owner of a property that's in tax recovery, and so we try and treat them with as much, I guess, compassion as we can.
Okay. Yeah, well, I just asked because in the past council meeting, all those addresses were there in the minutes. So I wasn't sure if that was a mistake or.
I think, and Lori may be able to address, part of the advertising may just be the fact that the social media ads are limited to what information we can put on them. So I'm looking at Lori, if that's the advertising you're referring to, Councillor Olson.
If I've had just a couple of people ask me, because I've just got texts and calls to see, I'm certain nobody's considering purchase any properties. So you're probably right, just kind of prying or inquiring.
I had an inquiry myself, so I went on the website and I was able to find that information in a previous council package when council approved the date for the public auction. I had to dig a little bit. I don't know the legal end of it. That would be up to CAO Neal to advise, but I feel, like you said, a bit of compassion to the people, being a small town. So it's probably not unfair to have residents dig a little bit to try to get that information, especially if they are not serious. And they can pop into the town office or make a phone call there as well, inquiry there as well.
I guess that would be my comment is, I guess if there's an auction, you can just call up the town office and they'll give you roll numbers. Is that correct? That's the question.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, we can actually, And I've seen municipalities, I've seen it done many different ways. I've seen municipalities in larger centers put the civic address down. Like I said, we've tried to I think err a little bit on the compassionate side, but certainly we don't want to hide it. And we're trying to find a balance, and maybe we didn't quite find the right balance with it for some people, but it was public in our council information documents. The legal was there, or the civic address was there. We just didn't probably in our advertising lay it out quite that way. And maybe, maybe we need to stop being as sensitive and put it out there as it is. So I think if you talk to a lot of people in town, again, it's a small town, and a lot of people know and find out, and they know whose properties it is. So, but yeah, we need to maybe find a better balance there, Councillor Olson.
Yeah,
The
no,
roll number isn't a bad idea, because there is a little bit of work to be done to find the address for a roll number, but yeah, whatever.
It was very easy when the question was presented to me. I was able to provide the background information in very little time, and that individual was happy.
Good. Okay, carry on, Councillor. I'm sorry.
Kim, your sensitivity is part of what makes you a great CAO, so yeah, we'll carry on with that. No,
Thank
that's
you.
all I had.
Awesome. Great question, though. Is there any questions for Councillor Olson? No. Okay. Thank you for that. That takes.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Just one question I have for Councillor Olson. Kyle, do you want to maybe follow up with your executive about the golf course loan? I know last discussions I had with Mr. Spees and Mr. Crippen, we were kind of targeting them coming to a January info session, which would be January 27th. Just wondering if we want to keep that date. It will probably be a virtual one, and whether they're as comfortable with that or not.
Yeah, that'd be fine. Tyler Price was working on it today.
Okay.
He hit a bit of a speed bump when he requested more information from a Mr. Chris Warwick. He said he hadn't got a response yet.
Hey. He called me. He texted me this morning for him to call him. It wasn't going to work. I'm calling him tomorrow morning to give him some information. So yeah.
Yeah, he heads back to work tomorrow morning, but text him easy enough.
Okay. I don't know.
Okay, so you think we'll be good then still to have them? I don't know who's going to present on behalf of the golf club, but would be able to present at our info meeting on the 27th then.
I think so. Yeah, we'll get some papers to everybody out to you beforehand, and yeah,
Okay.
there'll be a few available. I'm hopeful. They're trying to get everything together, so a couple of the newer members get some facts to them, so they're aware of where we started, where we got to, all that.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Olson, Councillor Olson.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Olson. All right, that takes us to Councillor Campion and then Councillor Jensen. Councillor Campion, the floor is yours.
Okay, just, you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Just further to add to my report, I was with Mr. Neal yesterday on the virtue thing of the subdivision and development assess appeal board training, and I wrote the test this afternoon. The lady had said that she never had a failure in all the courses she had done, and she still doesn't. So, and so I will be available to do some of the appeal things if they ever need them. One more item I got.
Just Councillor Campion's being humble. He got 100% on his test, so he did very well.
Was there one question?
No comment.
Sorry, I couldn't do that. I'm sorry, Councillor Campion.
There was one question that was true and false. The rest you had to know the answer. So, okay. Another thing, I've had a resident over here, taxpayer over by my place here around Palliser, around the Prairie Land school zone here, where the school used to be, which is now a playground. The guy is requesting to see if we can put more or better signage around it. I went for a drive in my truck yesterday, or the day before, I mean. There are signs to the playground coming from the south up First Street East here. The closest sign is by the alley near Bob Christie's.
Are you
which is-
talking for speed limits, Council Campion?
No, for the playground zone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's got a picture of a kid with a soccer ball in the speed zone. The closest to them, to the playground thing right now is 3/4 of a block away.
Right.
And on the one from the north over by the speed bump, no matter if you come from the west, make the right turn, no matter which way you're going there, the sign is right on the corner. When you're making your turn, you're not going to see that sign. There's
Right.
also a tree hanging there. I drove by the monument thing in RCMP Park, and there is a different sign there that says playground thing. It looks like kids running on it with the speed zone right on it. And what we're kind of asking for is that, can we put some more signage up around the immediate block around this playground? I understand lots of, like Kim and I had a discussion, and he says we can put up all the signs in the world. It's not gonna slow them down, but there's a lot of kids get off that bus, the crosstown buses when they're running. They're not running right now. And also that little snow pile that Councillor Olson or Mr. Olson built for them in the playground. There's a lot of kids playing on that. And I have a big concern about these kids walking back and forth there. In fact, I had ATCO just now change a street light on the corner, the south west corner of that block kept going out because it's really quite dark. And these guys are still whipping through these streets at 40, 50 mile an hour. They're not paying attention to these speed signs. So the other fellow had asked if there was any way we could put some more signs up or close the ones in that are there, move them in a bit. And I know you have to allow them time to slow right down, but it's something I'd like, council to look at, or Mr. Olson there would know.
Yeah, Director Olson, you want to address that?
If you move the signs in or we add more signs, it adds confusion. Those signs are placed where they're placed because that's where you're supposed to drop down to the minimal speed. So if we have signs further in, people are going to question, where am I supposed to do the zone? Right? So by having them further out, they're supposed to slow down at Christie's. So now it becomes an RCMP issue. They should be there to monitor the speed from Christie's in. Do you know what I'm saying? Like if we move the sign closer, then that means they don't have to slow down till they're closer to the school. I mean, we can put 50 kilometer without the playground zone, but again, without policing, it's not going to really, it's kind of like the car wash in Tim Hortons. We put all the signage we could and it didn't make a difference. But I mean, that's up to council. I can put more speed signs, but I wouldn't move the actual playground zone sign. Otherwise, you're just shorting it, right?
Yeah, what I'm thinking, Brent, is could they put just more, like not the speed sign, but this playground sign on the actual block of the Prairie Land thing? Because the playground is still there, but it takes up a small portion of it.
We could put signs on the fence. Sorry, Chris.
I would just suggest maybe Council Campion have that discussion outside of a council meeting with Director Olson. It's not really a council thing. I understand your concern, but again, you can put up as many signs as you want, as many regulations as you want, but it all comes down to enforcement now, always. So maybe a conversation with the RCMP wouldn't hurt either, I guess.
Well, I feel when it's brought to a councillor and asked to be brought to it, I would think it's a council issue. But
yeah,
I would drop it at that.
It's not a council decision, is what I'm saying.
No, but it's an issue that I wanted brought to council. That's where it was asked to be done.
All right.
So,
We'll talk about it, Brass, and we can look at corners. We could put signs on the, if the school will allow us, we can stick a playground sign right on the fence corners. I mean, there's fences all the way around it. It's just, if we're gonna put the expense to put the signs up is all. A playground sign, we can do that.
Yeah, there really isn't fence all the way around it, Brent. There's none across from my place here, and it ends over at the northeast somewhere there. It comes around the corner somewhere by Winona's there, and it ends. So
Okay, well, we can look at it
But there
after.
are
the council meeting.
there are poles there, light for the light posts. Eh?
Okay,
So-
we can look at it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just a comment, Councillor Campy and I have had this discussion a couple of times, and my comment was, I understand, I'm not questioning that people aren't exceeding the speed limit. And that especially on First or on Second Street, I think I've got that right. It's a straight from Second Ave to Fox Lake Trail. There's no stop sign along there at all. So people can get going at, significant speeds. As Director Olson pointed out, which was a very good point, that where the signs are placed is where you want them to slow down.
Yeah.
So anywhere inside after that sign is a 30 zone that the RCMP can patrol. If you put another 30-kilometer sign, another block or two to the north, then people are going to say, well, where am I supposed to be doing 30 kilometers an hour? I don't disagree that possibly we could throw some signs up on the fence, and any attention we can bring that will help us slow traffic down. But I do believe, and I can certainly have this discussion with our RCMP too, that they can spend some more time there and patrol there. I know I've talked to them about that particular area before, and the feedback I get, it's like anything else. If they go and sit there for half an hour or 45 minutes, it's Murphy's Law. They sit there and nothing happens. So I've told people who have concerns about that street to contact the RCMP, but to contact them with the times that these speeders are most happening. If it's at 8 o'clock in the morning, if it's at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, if they are noticing that seems to be fairly consistent time, then, the RCMP can kind of target those times. So, but we will certainly look at it, Councillor Campion and Council, and see if we can maybe put some signage up on the fence that it just brings it to their attention a little bit more.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions for Councillor Campion? All right, thank you for that, Councillor Campion. That takes us to Councillor Jensen, followed by Councillor Borden. Councillor Jensen, the floor is yours. It doesn't like you. Doesn't. Hey, there you go.
There we go. It's been pretty quiet since the last council meeting. Just one library board meeting as per the extension of government restrictions. We are closed to the public until the 21st, but are open for curbside service. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions for Councillor Jensen? Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Borden, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Mine's been pretty quiet as well, although I do have some additional paperwork. I'm not sure if Say O'Neill had seen this from Canadian Badlands regarding changes that they're going through. And they've gone through 2 phases with a consultant, and their 3rd phase is going to be trying to partner with the Government of Alberta, Travel Alberta, Western Economic Diversification, and Indigenous Tourism Associations. They are looking at revamping, and there's a lot of positive that it is well worthwhile. It's just not at the existing format. So that is that.
Yeah, Councillor Bowden, I haven't seen that one per se. I know that the last one I got, I did share with council in there, information package, I believe, in December. So,
Well, this is December 14th, so it would have
Okay,
been
no.
after our meeting.
yeah,
So
I
I'll
haven't
forward
seen
that. I'll forward that to you and you can have a boo at it. It's fairly lengthy, but
Perfect. Thank you.
the other information I was forwarded regarding a community conversation on virtual health and healthcare options from David Thompson Health Advisory Council. So there is a Zoom meeting on Thursday, January 14th. And if anybody is interested, I could share that with people if they want to attend. It is from 6 till 7:30 in the evening. So, and you have to register 24 hours in advance.
So
And the
Councillor Bowden, just in regards to that, so if anybody's looking for that information too, we had it on our social media. So we shared it on the Town of Hanna social media program a few days ago. So the information, if you're on Facebook, you could go back a few days and you'd find the document that Councillor Bowden has with all the information on how to register.
Yeah, or if you want to, you can just send me an email as well. I sent it in with my package, my report, I guess.
Yeah.
And yeah. And then the other, I shared it with everybody regarding writing a letter to our premier regarding asking for some of our rural communities, like maybe if we end up being closed again in on the 21st, is there an opportunity for some of the rural communities, namely ours, if our numbers are down, if we could open, it appears that, when this thing, if it does end up ending, there are some businesses that are suffering, and it'd be nice to be able to have those businesses still around afterwards. Our numbers are small. I believe we've been following the guidelines. Information, there's no COVID cases at the Hanna Lodge. The long-term closures were lifted December 24th. Special areas has 6 cases, or 0.13% of the population of special areas 2 population. Special areas 3 has 9, 4 has 21, but I'm concerned about special areas 2 and Hanna in particular, where some people don't think maybe hairdressers are a viable or a necessity, but to that owner it is a necessity, and maybe to some individuals that look at that as their self-confidence or whatever, is a necessity to them. So those are the ones that are not open, are hairdressers, gyms, and our public facilities and stuff. And mental health is a concern of mine for our students and everything else as well. So I did see a letter that somebody had written to Premier Kenny asking that their community be opened. It is a population of 800. They have no cases, and some of the rural communities are being painted with the same brush as the larger centers, higher population, more cases, things of that nature. So I just thought I'd run it by there just to get some sort of discussion going, or a thought going, whether or not, if that does happen, would we as a council be interested in approaching the premier to see if we could open under certain circumstances. So just a thought there. I also had a conversation with a resident regarding RV parking permits.
Yeah,
Do you want
that's
me to
on
discuss?
our correspondence items, yeah.
Okay, so that we can discuss then or whatever.
Yeah, I
So
think we should,
just
yeah,
wanted to make sure that it was going to be brought up and
You
just not skimmed over in our correspondence. So
Yeah, you bet.
other than that, I don't have anything else.
Oh, really?
So Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
in regards to Councillor Bowden's idea, thought about sending a letter, certainly if council is in support of that, it would be nice to have a motion from council directing the mayor to send a letter to our premier asking for, consideration to open more businesses and our public facilities because of the result of our numbers. Certainly if council wanted to do that, if we had a motion on the floor, we could vote on that.
I'm wondering if we don't take it even a step further and get all the municipalities within the special areas to sign it as well.
Well, that's the thing. When this
Yeah,
opens, it almost appears that rural Alberta is being penalized and forgotten. All the attention is the main corridor. And then in the meantime, our businesses are suffering. And well, I'm preaching to the choir, but if they close, then we're going to have to travel to these larger centers.
Yeah, well, not really, because you can't get your hair cut there either.
Well, I don't care, but obviously, getting my hair cut, I really don't care, but I'm concerned about the businesses and their livelihood and the financial impact it's having on them as well. So.
I absolutely don't disagree with you, but I think strength in numbers is better. Honestly, a letter from the town of Hanna, we can do it, but it's really an exercise in futility. They'll just go, yeah, whatever.
Could it be? And what about through all the other communities under 5,000 or something that?
The only concern.
That's the other problem. They're not all in the same situation though, because there's municipalities under 5,000 in the Ponoka region that are overwhelmed with COVID-19. So I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I think we're being penalized because of the faults of our brothers, and that's just what it is. I don't disagree with you. I think I certainly have no problem if we want to make a motion that we send a letter. That's fine, but I think there's more strength in our region as well as ours. I think there's a better chance of our whole region, special area number 2, because that's how they lump us as a reporting region. I think that would have more weight. So
yeah, and I think you get a bit more buy-in. The fact that we haven't, well, most of us have not been traveling and things, as far as I know, that we're being penalized with being as distant as we are. And so I just wanted to, yes, please.
I mean, and the crazy thing is that their answer is that we're not getting penalized any worse than anybody else because everybody's in the same situation. It's ridiculous that we have to do what we have to do just because of the 5 cases that we have in the special areas right now. But yeah, definitely, if you want to make that motion, we can probably do that. Why don't we finish up our council reports and roundtable, and then if you want to make that motion that we write a letter, if they decide to extend for a longer period of time, we can do that.
Or that we contact our fellow fellow municipalities to do a joint effort, and maybe our MP and our MLA and such.
Yeah, our MLA for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, you could ask. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. That's all I have then.
Okay. Any questions for Councilor Borden?
The only comment, Mr. Mayor, is, and I know that our MLA has been very strong advocate to caucus to say we should not be penalized like everyone else. So he probably, this letter from us and from the special areas too, would probably be an added benefit that he would have, or an added tool he could use when he's lobbying. But I do know from different people that he's been advocating very hard and was very disappointed with the province-wide blanket restrictions. I think if we're going to write a letter, we need to put some sort of parameters around it, and that would be that I was quite pleased with the way the province was handling it prior to the last, when they had enhanced areas, had more restrictions, less enhanced areas had more open restrictions and more flexibility. I think that would be the direction that I would recommend we go, is trying to get back to that state.
Yeah, I would just say if we could revert back to the enhanced region as you had before with the number of cases per 100,000, I think that would be the best recommendation.
Well, and then our kids can still hockey and get out and actually get a little bit of a life. And to me, I think that's very important for mental health. I guess the concern is that we may get a lot of city people or people from outside areas coming into our community, which I don't think we want to encourage either. But we're getting them anyways as far as delivering items and things. So
Or we can, I think it's easiest just to ask them to revert back to the enhanced region. That way they don't have to rewrite anything, and that'd be the easy.
Yep, that would be great.
Well, let me, thank you. I'll go do my little blurb here, which won't take it very long. And then you can make that motion if you want, Councillor Borden.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for your report. Yeah, that was the quietest I think it's ever been since I've been an elected official, let alone mayor. I honestly had one virtual meeting with Gary Smith, the Chief Operating Officer for Heartland Generation, and I, forgive me, but the other gentleman on the call, I didn't get his last name, so I'm not sure exactly who he was. He didn't speak much, but he just wanted to give an update just on the way things are going, of course, with the federal carbon tax, and then, of course, the conversion of Unit 2 or Unit 1, I guess it is, that's going to be changed over to dual fuel here. So that doesn't look very good for the coal industry in our region. And he made that quite clear that they're gonna stockpile some coal for the next little while, and then that'll be it. They'll probably break the contract for them to haul coal till 2026, and then we're just looking at reclamation. So it's not great news, but I'm glad he's he's been pretty frank with us. And the other part of it, though, is they are really actively seeking some more renewables and other projects that we might be able to do in the region. So, and talking a little bit larger scale. So, we'll just keep reaching out to them. I said if they ever needed anything from us, then they could reach out. And with that, that's really all I had the whole month. Is there any questions for me? All right, that makes it really easy. Then I would entertain a motion that council accepts council reports for information. Thank you, Councillor Borden. All in favor? And that is carried. And so, Councillor Borden, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I would. I'd like to make a motion that we write a letter to our premier and asking if we can revert back to the original steps we were following prior to this blanket closure.
Sure. And we could write that anytime if you want. Like, we don't have to wait.
Yep.
Well, I guess
write it right
depending
away.
on what the other councillors would like to see.
Yeah, I mean, there's no point waiting. By the time it gets into his hands, I think we might as well write it right away, because it would benefit us if they, yeah.
Well, I think the sooner the better.
Okay. Any questions from council? Looks like everybody's just, yeah, let's do it. All right, I'll call a question then. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you for that motion. All right, Mr. Neal, it gives you a little bit of work to do tomorrow.
Yep, I'll be writing a letter for you.
Thank
You're
you very
welcome.
much. Thank you.
Thanks. Yep. All right, that takes us to correspondence items. I'll just kind of blow through these. Maybe I'll blow through them, and at the end we'll just revisit the ones that we want to. 12.1 Minister of Municipal Affairs MSI funding. 12.2 Canadian Badlands Strategic Plan update. 12.3 we had Marigold Library System Schedule C rate confirmation. 12.4 Red Deer River Watershed Alliance, an information booklet and a municipal letter. 12.5 Keystone XL Canada 2020 pipeline construction update. 12.6 Prairieland Regional Division Board highlights. 12.7 Prairieland School Division Board highlights from December. The first one was November, sorry. 12.8 Prairie Crocus Community Fund 2020 year in review. 12.9 AltaGas Utilities name change to Apex Utilities. 12.10 Consul General of Japan in Calgary December 2020 update. 12.11 City of Cold Lake Alberta residents access to Government of Canada COVID-19 alert app. 12.12 the Legion Poppy appreciation. And the one we've been waiting for, 12.13, a letter from Terry and Patty Bloxon regarding an RV parking bylaw amendment to request. And Councillor Sickle actually came and talked to me. When I read this letter, it kind of intrigued me a lot. I thought that was a kind of a good idea. So I'm going to actually read the letter just so everybody knows what we're talking about. Town Council, we are submitting an idea for an amendment to the current RV parking bylaw. We would like Council to consider a paid parking permit to allow property owners to park their RV on the streets surrounding their property. Please put this on the agenda for your January 12th meeting. Thanks, and look forward to the response. So I think this is something pursuing. Personally, I don't know what is council's thought. I'm gonna just go around. I'm gonna go to Councillor Deadlock and just get some of your thoughts, and then we'll go to Councillor Stickhole, followed by Councillor Olson.
When I read the letter, the only thought I had was when the initial bylaw was put in place, was it put in for safety reasons? You know, how do we make it safe for everybody to park wherever they want on the streets? You know, there's got to be parameters put around it.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think it's a blanket thing. I think it's, you know, even regionally, I think depending on where you live, it's not just a blanket thing. And I also think it should probably have, you know, a timeline like May long weekend to September long weekend or something along that line, and done as a one-off on each one. That's kind of what I agree. It's not, can't be just a free for all, but
no, a cul-de-sac would be horrible. Like inside of a cul-de-sac would be horrible.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, well, we're going to get to you, but that's fine.
Because I did discuss discuss it with the Bloxhams, and that was their concern, is that it would have to be approved, applied for, and for only say May to end of September or something, a period of time, and people would pay on a monthly basis or for a period of time. So,
and I guess I'm not asking to resolve this tonight. I'm just asking should we maybe bring this back to our info session and do a little more work on it. Now, I guess that's more, sorry, I didn't make that very clear, but I don't know if everybody's kind of in general consensus that we should do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Councillor Sickle?
More discussion.
Yes. Sorry, you're muted.
Yeah, I have to agree with what Connie said and what you're saying. I think we'll bring it back to info.
Okay.
Councillor, more discussion.
Sorry. Yeah. No, that's good. Just trying to get consensus more than anything. Sorry. Councillor Olson?
Yeah. My thoughts would be they'd certainly have to present a case. I mean, in my house, I've got a big driveway. It works. It would not work on the street, obviously. In my past house, it would have worked on the street. However, it's assumed when you own an RV, you make an investment in a way to properly store it that doesn't inhibit your neighborhood. So I guess my thoughts would be you really need to justify the fact that you cannot store it on your property. If you can't, that's fine. However, if you have a void and you just, I mean, I tore up grass and put a gravel pad. I don't know how we want to get into that, because if that's a possibility, that would certainly be the preferred method. You invest in an RV, you should invest in your property to do it. However, if that's not an option, absolutely. I mean,
yeah. And again, I'm not saying just a blanket approval here. You pay your whatever your fee is and you can do it. You know, there's a lot of places where you certainly, it would just be prohibited. We would just say you can't do it there. I think that's the way you have to do it. It's not a guarantee.
Am I working?
Yes.
Great.
Welcome to the game.
Sorry, I tried quite a while to get it working. I apologize.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
For the technical, I'm taking Lori's place at fixing computers now. So
oh, there you go. Yeah.
Taking bookings. Yes, once again, my apology for that. I did have a chance to do a little bit of research based on the letter that was sent there, and I was looking at Calgary's bylaw, and I know Calgary's the largest center, of course, with a great many more issues around parking than we have here. But they have a rule similar to ours, which is 36 hours on, and then consecutive waiting period, 48 hours off until they can return again. And in their initial discussion, it says each spring and summer, the Calgary Parking Authority receives a number of complaints about how recreational vehicles, RVs, are being parked in residential neighborhoods across the city. City streets and alleys aren't large enough to allow long-term parking of large vehicles because of their size. Parked RVs may block the view of intersections, road signs, pedestrians, and other vehicles. And so they're asking their citizens to be extremely cautious and follow those rules. And that, in a lot of ways, a lot of that reasoning can apply to our community as well. They do restrict, I shouldn't say they don't restrict alleys to the same degree for parking in the alley. They still have the same hour reason, but they give a size of alley as a restriction. So if it's under 6.1 meters, sorry, let me double check that. Yeah, an alley must be 6.1 meters wide at any point to allow for RV parking. So our alleys on average are around 20 feet, somewhere in that area. So that allows a little bit of extra parking capability, but it's an aesthetic issue as much as anything else, but it also can be a safety issue, particularly if they're parking across other people's driveways into their property and close to traffic devices.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Like I appreciate. I think just I think the idea of a permit, and again, not. I mean, if it doesn't work where you live, you can apply, but you're never going to get one. I think it has to be looked at. These have to be looked at as one-offs. It can't just be. You can apply to potentially be able to do this, to have this parking. I think that's the road I'm looking at going down. And I don't want a decision made tonight. I think just to bring it back for the info session, I think it's worth pursuing, and you might be able to generate some income. What the hell?
Sure. I would just remind people that we do have a parking permit system that we developed a few years back, in which you can apply for an extended parking period in front of your residence up to a week. Right. And we've let that go for a little more than a week here and there, depending on the severity. And what that was to allow people to do repairs on an RV if they didn't have anywhere else to do it. So we tried to be flexible in that respect.
Absolutely.
And to give a little more flexibility.
Yeah, I think this is more of a take your RV out of storage or whatever it happens to be, and you don't have room in your yard, you have a place to put it in front of your house or whatever. That's what I'm kind of thinking. Anyway, we'll just get consensus and see if you want to have a larger discussion on this. Councillor Campion?
I'm totally against it, for the fact that we put that bylaw in place for a reason, because these RVs were parking there. They were parking backwards, leaving vehicles up to them. And they are still doing it.
But this wouldn't be an exception though. Like you wouldn't be able to do that. Like this.
Oh, it's going to come. And the problem I have with it, who's going to police this? I got a friend over here got a letter already about an RV parked on the street just recently, and then on 5th Avenue, a block from my place, there's a minivan that's been sitting on the back end of it on blocks for a year and a half, and nothing's been done with it. So I'm not saying anymore.
Okay. All right, Councillor Jensen.
I would just be interested to see some information to come to info session for further discussion. I think there would certainly be maybe exceptional circumstances for it.
Okay, good. Thank you. Councillor Borden?
Basically, this was a situation where they park. They live across from the school. There is no other. They park it on the east side of their house, and it is not creating a visibility issue for people at corners to turn on. I don't believe they had been parking there for the last 5 years off and on. They have a site where they park it during the winter, but they like to bring it to their house so they can actually stock it or do some things or whatever. And this year they got a ticket for it. So they thought instead of fighting, maybe it would be an opportunity to see about getting a permit where, yes, there would be conditions. It would not, they would not be able to, people would not be able to park if it's a parking hazard, if it's a traffic hazard or any others. If it's set off in a community where there's very little traffic and where it's not an infringement on anybody else, does not cross over sidewalks or anything else, why not give it a try and see if it'll work?
Okay, well, let's maybe bring this back to our info session at the end of the month and see maybe Adrian, if you see if anybody else is doing something along this line where you have a seasonal parking,
Yeah.
you know,
For sure.
something along that line. Just
I did a little looking into some municipalities, and they're all very similar. Their regulations are very similar to what we have, with few exceptions, you know. So
yeah.
Just
Yeah,
a
no,
just a
good.
comment, Mr. Mayor. So we have a very forgiving bylaw as it sits now.
Right.
My concern, and I certainly don't have any issue with having a discussion, looking at some options, looking at some ideas, but there is a reason it was put in place. People were complaining. People were not happy because somebody would have a 25, 30-foot trailer that they would park in front of their house, which would block, their neighbor's view, their neighbor's visibility, children crossing the street, all those kinds of things. So there's a lot more to it than it
Yes.
appears. Mr. Bloxham has a very unique situation and a unique location. But as I said, it's unique. The only fear that I have initially, without researching it a lot, is then the town's going to be the one that's picking and choosing, saying, yes, Kyle Olson, you can have a spot. No, Connie Deadlock, you can't. No, Larry Stickler, you can't. Yes, Chris Warwick, you can. And it can has the ability to create. You have to have a really set regulations as to what would be permitted and what would not be permitted.
Yeah, unless you could go down the road of that, the applicant having to get all of his adjacent neighbors to have a letter
Sign
support.
off,
Things like that puts the onus on them then. So I know this is just what I'm just trying to kick around this. But we'll bring it back and just see. Yeah, no, they're all valid points, but we can bash this out a little more at the end of the month. I think I'd like to have time to kind of think about it a little bit more.
Definitely.
Yeah. No, excellent. Good discussion. That's awesome. Thank you. Is there any of the other correspondence items anybody wanted to address? Yes, Councillor Borden.
I believe in the Watershed Alliance, they were asking whether or not other municipalities wanted to support it. 50 cents per person, and I'm not sure if we wanted to look at that.
Sorry, Councillor Borden, which one is that?
That one is for 12.4, the Red Deer River Watershed Alliance.
Mr. Mayor, in the past, they send this letter out annually. We have not responded for a number of years.
Right.
A few years ago, council made a decision not to fund the Watershed Alliance. We already fund the Red Deer Municipal Users Group and felt that that was sufficient for a community our size. But certainly if there is a desire amongst council to support this, it's basically double what we pay the Red Deer River, and it would be a contribution of $1,250 to them. But certainly if there's interest in council in doing that.
No, I'm not.
Move that forward.
I'm not showing interest. I just thought maybe we should respond to it, and whether
I'd like to hear Councillor Campion's take on this. Oh, you're muted, Councillor Campion.
Yeah, we've had this discussion before, and a couple times Jeff Hanger has come. He was the executive director with it, and he was kind of an oddball kind of guy, but they've released him now. Joe Samenthought is the director now, but being so far from the river, I don't see where we have no benefit joining this. We get enough out of being with the Red Deer River Municipal User Group, because the Watershed Alliance have their own board, they have their own meetings, and I see no advantage to Hanna joining this, not at the price. And even at the time when they were doing it before, it was quite a bit cheaper, and we still didn't do it. So I sit on the Red Deer River Users Group, and they do come and try to present to us at different times. Sometimes some of the things they do to me is I don't know, it's not in the best interest of the river. I'll leave it at that, but I would not support this, joining this thing at all.
Okay, I think we had that discussion a few years ago too, if I'm not mistaken. My memory's not that great, but I
I
thought
just
we,
wasn't sure if it changed or not, or if we could reply and just say we're not interested and please don't forward it.
We could certainly reply to them and say, thank you for your letter. At this time, we've chosen not to provide that per capita fee.
anything else in correspondence anybody wanted to address? The only one I was curious about was 12.1, our letter to the Minister of Municipal Affairs that we had to say aloha to. She didn't use her very good judgment in breaking her 17-year tradition of going to Maui to spend her, anyway, whatever. So I'm just wondering if maybe once they get a new minister in place, we can cross this bridge when we get to it. Maybe you might want to resubmit that just so it's in the new minister's hands. It's not like it's not going to be a revolving door, mind you. I would actually, the acting, help me out, Rick McIver. I'd like to see him as actually Minister of Municipal Affairs, but I think he's got his hands full with transportation. But I think we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But I wouldn't mind resubmitting that letter to the new minister when that time comes. I doubt she even had this barely in her hands before she said goodbye. But that's awesome. All right. Any other comments?
The only comment, Mr. Mayor, is we will anticipate and plan for our January 27th council info meeting to be virtual. And unless anything changes substantially, our February council meeting will most likely be virtual.
Right.
If it's not, we'll know a little bit more at January 27th. The other thing is if it's not virtual on the February 9th, we may have to look at another location because we've made a commitment to Heartland if we can make that fly to have the community center that day. So we may have to look at the fire hall or whatever to perform, but we'll kind of play that by ear, seeing how things go here in the next few weeks.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. All right, I would entertain a motion that council accepts correspondence items 12.01 to 12.13 for information. Thank you, Councilor Campion. All in favor? That is carried. Did we have anything for closed session, Mr. Neal?
No, we don't, Mr. Mayor.
Nothing for closed session. Okay.
Rhonda has a question.
Oh, hi, Rhonda.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. I want to make my apologies to Councillor Deadlock, Councillor Borden. She did send that flyer to me and I filed it in the wrong place. So it didn't get in the council package.
Okay.
I am sending out an email to all of you tonight.
Well, no worries. Thank you.
Awesome. Perfect. All right. And I guess, well, that completes all our business for this evening. I want to thank everyone who dialed in, who watched us on YouTube, and all of council and administration for a job well done, and declare this meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night and a good few weeks, I guess, until we see